Illinois is collapsing. This is not a joke. This is a warning. The government has amassed way too much debt for it to handle, and we can see how this causes destruction. To all those who believe the accumulation of debt has no consequence, I present you with this. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to get into the situation in Illinois right now. Let's begin with this article out of Fox. Illinois is grappling with a full-fledged financial crisis, and not even the lottery is safe. The governor said, this is a banana republic. This is the type of thing that we are going to get into today. Stay tuned for it, okay? I'm going to cover several articles. It's going to show you exactly why this is a guaranteed collapse. There's no way around it. Let's just get into the facts. Don't listen to me and my opinion. Let's just get to the facts. Facing billions in unpaid bills and pension obligations, the state is hitting a cash crunch that is even rare by Illinois standards. Okay? The pensions, if you are in Illinois right now, you have a pension waiting for you, it would be my best guess that they will at the very least, take a portion of that in some way, shape, or form. Maybe they'll say, well, you can't take it now. You're going to have to take it 10 or 20 years from now. Or maybe you just get a little haircut of 5% or 10%. Or maybe instead of that pension, maybe you'll get a future dated government bond. I don't know what they're going to do exactly. But unfortunately, people are going to suffer because of this. And a lot of people out there keep denying that it's happening. There's a collapse going on right now, and I can't believe the ignorance, perhaps it's willful ignorance, that we see out there. Look at this. Look how terrible it is. And that's just one state. Look at California. Look at other areas. They're suffering. And we need to just first admit it. Admit there's a problem. So here are the facts. Let me get to that. No tangents today. A top financial official just warned 100% of the state's monthly revenue will be eaten up by court-ordered payments. How can a person, how can a state, how can a country ever pay back on any of its debt when all the revenue is used to go out in one direction or another? It's impossible. It's math. It's simple mathematics. You don't need to be a genius to figure that out. Then you have, within all these articles here today, basically these different politicians make suggestions on what they should do. I will assure you, in most cases, increase taxation, cut from this, cut from that, and you're going to have to spend more as an individual. You get less though. That's what happens every single time. It's a beautiful way to have a whole bunch of poor people living around you. That's the best way to do it. Cut from their services, take away all their resources, and then make everything more expensive. Genius. All right. Illinois will literally lose the lottery if the budget fails. I mean, this is how serious this has become. And it goes into the lottery anyway. I won't get into that. Let's move on. A brief list would include, it's talking about pension debt of more than $114 billion. Think about that for a second. Pensions of $114 billion in debt, they can't pay that back. All the revenue is being just sent right out the front door. It comes in, goes right back out. There's no way to pay it back. Let's just admit that. What they intend on doing is refinancing their debt. So essentially they owe, let's just say, $1 billion a year. So what they do is instead say, we'll pay you that $1 billion a year, but we're not going to pay you that until 5 years from now. And don't worry, we're going to pay a little bit extra because, of course, we are getting a loan for that money will stretch that out over a longer period of time, and we are ultimately going to have to pay more because of this banker plan. The accumulation of debt is there to punish people. That's why it exists. The public school funding system, one of the most discriminatory in the nation. A budget that is chronically out of balance. How often do we see that? And one of the most underfunded mental health care systems in the country. It's going on. Property taxes in the state. And actually, one of the commenters was mentioning how property taxes, I don't know this as a fact, but one individual out there, and I want you, if you are in Illinois, share your experiences, please. Many people in the previous video did. Thank you very much for that. They said it was something along the lines of $1 million home, $10,000 in property taxes. Think about that. You want to own a property. You own it, right? That's yours. I mean, you're paying the property taxes. Oh, wait a minute. But what happens if you stop paying property taxes? You'll get the boot so fast, you won't know what hit you. You're renting the land. You don't own anything. That's the type of criminality that we face. It's not just Illinois. It's not just the US. It's everywhere. Of course, in a lot of places, developing nations, you don't even have to pay property taxes. That's how they do it. They want investment. But no, in the West, they say, pay us your taxes, and then we'll squander the money. Property taxes in the state are the highest because of the state's failure to adequately fund schools. Anyway, it doesn't matter what the reason is. I don't necessarily agree with any of these articles, but it's good information. Despite all this bad stuff, which is disproportionately hurt minority communities, members of the House keep electing this person. This is all political anyway. And it goes on. Let me move on here, okay? A lot of these articles are talking about how they, if they're a right, what they call, right or let's say a Republican type of news outlet, then of course they hate those on the left and the Democrats and vice versa. I mean, I don't agree with that. In fact, up until very recently, I didn't even understand that there could be information that is either left or right. I guess maybe I have a learning disability when it comes to this, but there's no way I'm ever going to look at information without just taking it for what it is and trying to get rid of all that bias that they put in there. Just give me the facts. I want to move on. Look at this. When we see this here, the state's backlog of unpaid bills is expected to reach $22.7 billion if Illinois goes a third fiscal year without a budget. There's no way they can pay this back. Then what's going to happen? I mean, are they going to get a bailout? Well, maybe to some degree, but you don't get bailouts. If Europe is any example, you don't get a bailout unless you engage in austerity, unless you cut back on those pensions, unless you steal the wealth from innocent people out there. Now, you may not even agree with the concept of pensions. You may not agree with unions. You may not agree with anything of that. But let's just put it into perspective for a moment. You have an individual who is, let's say, 63 years old. 2 years down the road, he wants to retire. He's got his pension waiting for him. And he's on a fixed income. He's maybe the only person providing for himself, his family, and every penny is going to count. He figures he can last 20 years comfortably, as long as nothing changes. 20 years to be able to afford everything he needs. But now they make a cutback, and they cut back on those pensions 10-20%. All of a sudden, things change. He can't afford those bills. His rent continuously increases every year, but he's on a fixed income. Now his property taxes, those keep rising. And of course, he's getting taxed in every other category, and they continue to increase. This is going to be the new world. Wake up to it. The collapse has nothing to do with the stock market. The stock market is a joke. The stock market is a movie. The stock market is a play. It's a drama. It's a fraud. It's a show. It's nothing but a dream inside a central banker's mind. I hope you understand that. When I say there's a collapse, please, I'm not talking about the stock market. Maybe in some cases I referred to it like that, but the global economic collapse is referring to the whole thing, not the stock market. All right. This is basically talking about the fact that they have billions in debt. There's so much of this unpaid garbage that's been thrown out there, and it keeps accumulating. Why do we have debt? Because we have central banking. Think about how ridiculous this concept is, how terrible it is, and how much death, pain, and destruction and hunger this causes. And that's what's happening, and you could see it on a small scale happening right before your very eyes. We saw it in Detroit. Look at Detroit today. It's destroyed. It is destroyed. Sure, there's small pockets that are nice, but as a whole, it's destroyed. And that's what's going on in Illinois right now, on a bigger scale. But I assure you that scale is going to get wider and wider and wider. Look, we are now, let's say, from 2009 to today, the stock market has been rising. Unemployment apparently has been doing better and better and better. Let's just say 5% unemployment now. The general economy is claimed to be better. Detroit is a complete failure. The pension funds around the US, and actually around the world in many cases, are losing out. They're failing. You explain that to me. What do you call that? Okay, let's move on. Okay, that's enough. That's enough of that. Illinois has been without a budget for 2 years, and if a deal isn't reached by the end of the fiscal year on June 30th, the lawmakers are predicting massive cuts, and a potential shutdowns to help deal with the financial shortfall. Massive cuts. You heard it here first. I told you about this before. I told you it would happen. I talked about it in my book. I have been talking about this for a while, and people all this while have called me stupid. They've called me an idiot. They've called me a fearmonger, and I don't give a damn because real people get hurt. I have people emailing me. I have people commenting to me literally every single day talking about how they are encountering the issues I'm talking about. I'm not just talking out of my you-know-what. I'm reading the information, I'm collecting it, I'm hearing it from the people all around the world, and then I bring out videos. That's simply what happens. This is also talking about the state of the Mega Millions, the Powerball, and everything else. But one last thing from this article, and then I'll quickly finish it up. Chicago Public Schools has turned to none other than J.P. Morgan Chase for a $275 million loan, just to be able to operate through June and make a contribution to the teachers' pensions. Wow. So they could have got a bailout from the government. They could have got money in some other way, but they got money from J.P. Morgan Chase, the same company that makes money off the food stamp EBT program, the same company that has been caught rigging the silver market as well as others, the company responsible for so much, and they went to them and they getting their loan. This is the way it works. The JP Morgan Chase is going to make a lot of money off of this. Maybe it's just peanuts compared to what they make elsewhere. But it's just gets me so badly because you can see, put these governments into debt, squeeze the hell out of them, and then offer them a little kickback, offer them something to get their gears moving again and profit along the whole way. It's just a terrible scam, and it works very well. Illinois may become the first state on record to have its bond rating cut to junk. It should have already been junk, but that's the way it is. It's talking about everything I just talked about before, $6 billion over the fiscal year. It's going to add to the debt. It's terrible. Can Illinois go bankrupt? And apparently the answer is no. States aren't eligible to petition U.S. courts to escape from their debts the way cities like Detroit have. Congress made a deal with Puerto Rico and saying, yes, they can do so, but no, not states. All right, so what's happening here is going to be perhaps even worse because their situation isn't getting better. They're amassing too much debt, and as a result, they're going to have to cut back. I don't know who's going to suffer the worst. I assure you, though, there are going to be cutbacks. People are going to pay one way, shape, or form, whether it's the taxpayers or either directly, maybe it's the pensions, maybe it's this or that. I don't know. It's going to have to come from somewhere, and ultimately, people are going to suffer as a result. If you found this video informative, then please give me a thumbs up. Support me by giving a thumbs up, by commenting on this video, and by hitting the subscribe button. I do videos every single day practically, and I hope that you would join me for future videos as well. I'm also on Steemit, by the way. Links are in the description. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you'll find my books, The Money GPS, and my new release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. The first book is about the 4 asset classes and how to profit from them. And then the new book talks about the familiar concepts, but then I get into what I call the Money GPS strategy, becoming self-sufficient, reducing your debt, earning income, all those sort of things. So just go over to Amazon because they have a look inside feature. You can actually flip through the book to see if you like it. For those who don't want to read, for those who are too busy or whatever, I have an audiobook version of Global Economic Collapse. You can check that out at my website, themoneygps.com. There's a link for that there. And that's all for this video. Take care.